So suspense is basically what keeps you going, what keeps you reading, what keeps you watching, what makes the story exciting. And there are a couple of features that really sort of predict suspense. Let me read you a short story. It's called Laura, written by Robert O'Neill, and it is a pretty suspenseful story. We're going to look at what makes it suspenseful. Let's see what you feel when you hear it. Everybody in the crowded restaurant stared when the young woman suddenly threw a glass of wine in the face of the older man sitting opposite her, at a table near the window. The young woman was attractive and well dressed. The man was at least 20 years older than she was. He looked shocked. The young woman suddenly stood up and ran toward the door. "Laura, come back, please!" the older man shouted. But she had already reached the door. The man ran after her. It had started to rain outside. She ran out into the middle of the street. "For God's sake, give me a chance to explain," the man shouted. She turned around and stared at him. A car had just turned the corner and was coming toward her very fast. The driver had not turned his windscreen wipers on, and he was talking to someone on his mobile phone. Then suddenly he saw her, directly in front of him, so close that he could see her eyes when she turned her head and looked at him. Right. So what makes the story suspenseful? Well, first it starts in medias res. Everybody in the crowded restaurant stared at the young woman when the young woman suddenly threw a glass of wine in the face of the older man sitting opposite her. So they're in the restaurant, she's older, he's younger, she's older, the other way around. And there's reason for her to throw a glass of wine in the face of that man. So there's a huge backstory there. Like, first of all, why is she so angry? Why is she throwing the wine, in the older man's face? In addition, like, what is their relationship? Did they do some kind of online dating and now she realized he's not who he said he was? Is she the woman's father that revealed some dirty secret? No idea. So there's a lot of stuff that could be going on. And we kind of sort of want to find out. And there is strong emotion. Then there is powerful language. Through the glass of wine, he looked shocked. The young woman suddenly stood up and ran toward the door. "Laura, come back, please!" the older man shouted. "For God's sakes, give me a chance!" Like, there is really powerful language here. Short sentences, strong words, suddenly, shocked. For God's sakes. So that certainly works, I think. And then there's like unexpected events. Like, first of all, the throwing the glass of wine. And then the car comes. Windscreen wipers. He had not turned his windscreen wipers on, so he didn't see well. Talking on his mobile phone. Okay, we're seeing it coming. That is like almost foreshadowing, right? We're like thinking, oh my God, he's gonna hit her. We're feeling this, so that is pretty cool. And then suddenly he saw her directly in front of him, so close that he could see her eyes when she turned her head and looked at him. Done. So, well, there are unclear things to be discovered in the end, right? We don't know if she's dead or not. We would like to know, but we're assuming, right? But we can kind of figure it out ourselves. And even at the beginning, their relationship, we have a pretty clear idea. Maybe different from person to person, but we can find out in our heads, And that makes the story fun, that we can discover things, that we can like speculate and try to find out ourselves. So that is pretty cool. So these are some powerful suspense techniques. Another one is like building anticipation by dropping an observation. Like in the Thor film I talked about earlier, say, both of you were born to be kings. This pretty cool scene. Now, we will later find out that Loki is in fact born to be king in a very explicit, direct kind of manner, being actually the son of Laufey, king of the Frost Giants, like in the story. And often we have that there's like an observation drop that we don't really get yet. And later we're like, ah, wow, okay. And of course, yeah, unexpected events that change everything we knew, like in the Harry Potter film, the Snape scene, that there was a reason why he did what he did that we just had no way of knowing. So these things build suspense, they make things interesting. In addition, what we can look at is things like, or what we can comment on also, is like the atmosphere. Is it dark? Is it gloomy? Is it happy? Is there like a mirthful mood, or is there like anxiety that the reader would feel? Is there suffering, right? Is there struggle? Is there fighting? Also, is there strong emotion in the story? Is there, like, are there really strong feelings of love, of hatred, of desire, that can drive the story too? We'll get there in a second. Right, are there scenes in fast progression? Is it a slow kind of movie or of story where there's lots of description, lots of detail, or is it really fast, 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 fast? Because that gives us a certain feeling too. So right, these are some basic suspense techniques, and that basically covers narrative. That's all we can talk about by and large. First or third person, type of story, suspense, and of course the narrative structure, the timeline, and yeah, that basically covers that.